Welcome back to the channel, Valuable Coins HD, coin lovers and treasure hunters. Today we are diving deep into the fascinating story of one of America's most iconic coins, the Lincoln Wheat Penny from 1957, with mint marks that make all the difference in its rarity and value. At first glance, this penny may look like the ones you've seen countless times in old jars, drawers, or maybe even in your pocket change years ago, but don't be fooled. Some of these coins, depending on their condition, mint mark, and special characteristics, can turn out to be worth an absolute fortune. Stay tuned until the end, because you'll be surprised at just how valuable one of these tiny coins can truly be. The Lincoln Wheat Penny has a rich history in American coinage. It was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. It was the very first coin in U.S. history to feature a real person instead of symbolic images like Lady Liberty. This was a major turning point in coin design, as it celebrated a national hero who represented freedom, leadership, and unity during the most difficult time in American history, the Civil War. The wheat reverse design, with two simple wheat stalks framing the denomination, symbolized prosperity, agriculture, and growth. This design lasted until 1958, making the 1957 penny one of the final years of the wheat cent series before the memorial reverse was introduced in 1959. Now, let's zoom in on the year 1957. This was a time when the United States was experiencing post-war prosperity, the Cold War was unfolding, and everyday life was rapidly modernizing. In that year, the U.S. Mint produced Lincoln Wheat Pennies at two different locations: Philadelphia, which left no mint mark, and Denver, which carried the familiar D mint mark just below the date. Tens of millions were struck, meaning they were widely circulated across the nation. Many Americans used these pennies for everyday purchases, from buying candy to paying bus fares, and most of these coins became worn down with heavy use over the years. However, not every penny is created equal. Collectors know that condition and rarity are the key factors that determine value. A 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny that's been heavily circulated might only be worth face value or a little more, but one that has been preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition is an entirely different story. Imagine a coin that has never been touched by dirty hands, never been rattling around with other coins, and still shines with its original mint luster. That's what collectors dream about. Then there are the mint marks themselves. The 1957 penny without a mint mark comes from Philadelphia, while the 1957 D was struck in Denver. While both can hold significant value in higher grades, error coins or special varieties are what really capture collectors' attention. For example, double die obverse, repunched mint marks, and off-center strikes are among the most desirable features. These minting mistakes were never intended to exist, but when they slipped through the quality checks and ended up in circulation, they became hidden treasures. Each error makes the coin unique, and collectors are willing to pay top dollar for these rare variations. What makes the 1957 Wheat Penny especially fascinating is that it represents the end of an era. Just 2 years later, the beloved wheat reverse would be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design, marking a new chapter in American coinage. This makes the late 1950s wheat pennies not only collectible but historically important. They stand as a final symbol of the design that lasted nearly half a century and became one of the most recognizable coins in U.S. history. Now, let's talk about market demand. With coin collecting becoming more popular than ever, and with modern technology allowing more people to discover hidden treasures in their collections, the demand for pristine Lincoln Wheat Pennies is constantly rising. Collectors and investors alike know that coins from the 1950s, when found in exceptional condition or with rare errors, can fetch incredible prices at auctions. The thrill of finding one of these pennies is what makes the hunt so exciting. Just think about it. An ordinary-looking penny that you might have once overlooked could actually be a rare gem worth thousands upon thousands of dollars, and now, for the moment you've been waiting for. Among the 1957 Lincoln Wheat Pennies, those with rare features, preserved in mint state condition, and sought after by dedicated collectors have been known to sell for staggering amounts. In fact, one of these remarkable coins has reached a value of $90,000, yes, you heard that right, $90,000 for a single penny. It's astonishing to imagine that a coin minted for just 1 cent could hold such incredible value today. This is exactly why searching through your change, your old piggy banks, or even inherited coin collections is always worth the effort. You never know what hidden treasure might be waiting to be discovered. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into a coin that may seem ordinary to many people but is, in fact, a highly collectible piece of American history, the 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny with its mint mark. This little 1-cent coin has an amazing story to tell, and for those lucky enough to find one in the right condition, it could mean holding something that is worth far more than its tiny face value. Stick around until the end, because we'll reveal just how much one of these seemingly simple pennies can be worth, and you'll be blown away by the number. The Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most beloved and widely collected coins in the United States. It was first struck in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, and it made history as the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. The design by Victor David Brenner captured Lincoln's dignified profile on the obverse, while the reverse featured 2 stalks of wheat curving upward to frame the denomination. Those wheat ears symbolized prosperity and growth, perfectly matching the ideals of the time. For nearly 50 years, this coin circulated in the pockets and purses of millions of Americans until 1958, when the reverse design was changed to the Lincoln Memorial. Now, let's step into the year 1946. America had just emerged from the chaos and sacrifice of World War II. The war had ended in 1945, and the country was transitioning into peacetime life. Soldiers were coming home, industries were shifting back from wartime production, and families across the nation were ready to rebuild and embrace prosperity. The 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny is a piece of that very moment in time. Every coin minted that year carries the history of a nation healing from conflict and moving toward a new era. Holding one in your hand is like holding a symbol of post-war America. In 1946, pennies were struck at 3 different U.S. mints. The Philadelphia Mint produced coins without a mint mark, the Denver Mint struck coins marked with a D below the date, and the San Francisco Mint used an S. Each mint contributed millions of pennies, and these coins found their way into circulation all across the country. But despite the large numbers minted, condition and rarity always make the difference between a common coin and one worth thousands of dollars. Most 1946 pennies were used heavily in everyday life. Think about how many hands they passed through, how many pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks they lived in. Over decades, the vast majority of them became scratched, dirty, and worn. Those well-circulated examples don't bring much value today. But if you find a 1946 penny in pristine, uncirculated condition, meaning it still shines with its original copper brilliance and sharp detail, it becomes something entirely different. Collectors are always searching for those mint-state coins, because their scarcity makes them highly desirable. Adding to the excitement are the unique varieties and minting errors that can be found among 1946 Lincoln Wheat Pennies. Error coins are accidents of production, but they are treasures in the eyes of collectors. Double die obverse, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and repunched mint marks are examples of errors that turn ordinary coins into rare pieces. These mistakes were never meant to leave the mint, but when they did, they created one-of-a-kind finds. If you happen to stumble upon a 1946 penny with such a flaw, you could be holding something extraordinary. Another important factor that boosts the appeal of the 1946 wheat penny is its composition. During World War II in 1943, pennies were made of steel coated with zinc due to copper shortages for the war effort. But by 1946, copper had returned to the cent, making it part of the first wave of post-war copper pennies. This return to traditional metal adds even more historical significance to the 1946 issues. They remind us of how the nation shifted back to normal after years of sacrifice and rationing. So, what does all of this mean for collectors and treasure hunters? It means that a coin as small and seemingly simple as a penny carries far more value than most people realize. It is a snapshot of history, a symbol of transition, and, for those in the know, a potential fortune waiting to be discovered. Coin enthusiasts and investors alike prize the Lincoln Wheat Penny series because of its beauty, history, and the thrill of the hunt. The 1946 edition is no exception, and in fact, it is one of the more fascinating dates in the series. Now, let's get to the exciting part. You might be asking yourself, how much could a single 1946 Lincoln Wheat penny with a mint mark actually be worth? Well, while circulated examples are common and not worth much more than face value, those rare, high-grade examples preserved in mint state condition with full luster and no damage are in a completely different league. Combine that pristine condition with a desirable mint mark and perhaps even a rare minting error, and the value can skyrocket. In fact, one of these coins has reached a jaw-dropping $93,000, yes, $93,000 for a coin that was originally worth just a single cent. Think about that for a moment. Something so small, so overlooked, and so ordinary in its time has transformed into a prize worth more than many people's annual income. That is the beauty of coin collecting. You never know when a hidden gem will appear, waiting to change the way you see the world of money forever. Today we're exploring another remarkable piece of American coinage that has fascinated collectors for decades, the 1948 Lincoln Wheat penny with its mint mark. At first glance, this penny might look like the countless others that circulated in the mid-20th century, but when you take a closer look, you'll find a story filled with history, artistry, and surprising value. By the time we reach the end of this video, you'll see why this little coin deserves a place in your collection, and just how much money one of these rare pennies has been known to fetch. The Lincoln Wheat penny is one of the most iconic coins ever minted in the United States. First struck in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it broke new ground as the first coin to feature a real historical figure rather than an allegorical design. Sculptor Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln was simple yet dignified, capturing the strength and wisdom of the man who guided the nation through the Civil War. On the reverse, two wheat stalks arched upward around the words, 1 cent, symbolizing prosperity, growth, and the hard-working spirit of America. For nearly 50 years, this design was the face of America's smallest coin, until the wheat was replaced in 1959 with the Lincoln Memorial. The year 1948 was an important time in American history. World War II had ended just a few years earlier, and the country was adjusting to a new role as a global superpower. The economy was booming, families were moving to new suburbs, and industries were thriving. Coins minted during this time carry with them the spirit of post-war optimism and progress. The 1948 Lincoln Wheat penny is a piece of that story, a coin that ordinary people used every day as they built their futures in this new era. In 1948, pennies were struck at 3 different U.S. mints: Philadelphia, which issued coins without a mint mark; Denver, which placed a small D below the date; and San Francisco, which used an S. Together, these mints produced hundreds of millions of pennies, ensuring that the coin became an everyday part of life across the nation. But even with such large numbers, rarity comes into play when you consider condition, mint mark, and errors. Most 1948 wheat pennies were circulated heavily. They paid for newspapers, bus fares, sodas, and candy bars. Over decades of use, they lost their original shine, their details were worn down, and many ended up tarnished or scratched. These circulated examples still hold interest for collectors, but their value is usually modest. What makes certain coins from 1948 truly exceptional is preservation. A coin that has survived untouched, with sharp details and its original mint luster, is a rare find indeed. These uncirculated or mint state examples are what collectors dream of adding to their collections. Beyond condition, mint marks also matter. Some collectors specifically seek out coins from the Denver or San Francisco mints, as production numbers and survival rates vary. While all 3 versions of the 1948 wheat penny can be valuable in the right grade, it's often the high-grade coins with a mint mark that stand out at auctions. Then there are minting errors and varieties, which take things to an entirely new level. Double die errors, repunched mint marks, and off-center strikes are among the most popular. Each error is unique, which means no two are exactly alike. For collectors, this uniqueness is like owning a piece of history that no one else has. The artistry of the coin itself should not be overlooked. Lincoln's portrait, designed decades earlier, still resonated with Americans in 1948. His steady gaze and calm expression symbolized unity and resilience, values that the nation continued to hold close in the years following the war. On the reverse, the wheat design reminded people of the nation's agricultural strength and the prosperity that lay ahead. When you hold a 1948 wheat penny in your hand, you're not just holding a piece of metal, you're holding a symbol of America at a very specific moment in time. The value of a coin comes from more than just its metal or design, it comes from the story it tells, the condition it's in, and the demand among collectors. Over the years, the Lincoln Wheat Penny series has become one of the most collected coin types in the United States. People of all ages have saved these pennies, whether out of nostalgia, for the beauty of the design, or in hopes of finding a rare and valuable piece. The thrill of searching through a pile of pennies and discovering one with a mint mark or in excellent condition is part of what makes coin collecting so exciting. So how much could a 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny with a mint mark really be worth? The answer depends on many factors: its grade, whether it has any minting errors, and how well it has been preserved. Ordinary, well-worn examples are common and won't break the bank. But those rare, high-grade specimens that have survived the passage of time in nearly flawless condition can be worth far more than you might imagine. In fact, one of these coins has been known to sell for an astounding $73,000, yes, $73,000 for a coin that was once just a penny in someone's pocket. That's the magic of coin collecting. What seems ordinary at first can turn out to be extraordinary when you know what to look for. Today we are diving into the fascinating story of one of America's most iconic coins, the 1954 Lincoln Wheat Penny with its mint mark varieties. At first glance, it may look like just another old copper penny that has passed through countless hands over the decades, but when you look closer, you'll see that this little coin holds secrets, history, and in some cases, incredible value that can surprise even seasoned collectors. If you have a jar of pennies at home, or if you've ever sifted through pocket change, you might want to pay very close attention, because one of these small coins could be the treasure you've been overlooking for years. Let's begin with a little bit of history. The Lincoln Wheat Penny was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, making it the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature the image of a real historical person rather than an allegorical figure. The design was the work of Victor David Brenner, and his initials, VDB, famously appear on some of the earliest strikes, which themselves are highly collectible. By 1954, the wheat penny was already well established as a staple of American coinage, continuing its long run until the design was eventually replaced by the Lincoln Memorial Cent in 1959. Now, the 1954 wheat penny may not seem like the rarest coin at first, because the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints produced a large number of them. But here's the catch: not every penny that rolled off the presses in those years was created equally. Some carry errors, some were struck under unusual conditions, and others have managed to survive in exceptional condition despite the passage of time. It's those unique examples that can bring eye-popping values today. When looking for a 1954 penny, you'll often see a mint mark below the date. No mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia. A small d means it came from Denver, while an S stands for San Francisco. While millions were minted at each location, collectors today search for specific features, like double dies, off-center strikes, or even unusual color toning, that can make a coin highly desirable. A coin that might appear ordinary to the casual eye could actually be worth far more than its face value if those details are present. One of the biggest factors in determining the value of a 1954 penny is condition. Pennies that went straight from the mint into storage and avoided decades of circulation are the ones collectors crave. These uncirculated or mint state coins, with their sharp details and bright luster, can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction depending on their grade. The higher the grade, especially when graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, the higher the price. Coins that are red in color, rather than brown or toned from age, are also particularly prized, but condition isn't the only thing. Some 1954 pennies have remarkable errors. For example, double die errors, where the coin shows doubling in the lettering or numbers due to a misalignment during minting, are always favorites among collectors. Other error types include clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing, or off-center strikes, which give the coin a lopsided look. These quirky mistakes from the minting process are like little historical accidents that today can bring huge premiums. what makes the 1954 penny such a fascinating coin is that it sits at the crossroads of history and collecting. These pennies were in circulation during an era when America was booming after World War II, when families were growing, industries were expanding, and pocket change carried with it the weight of everyday life. Every penny from 1954 has its own story, whether it was used in a small-town grocery store, passed along in a city diner, or tucked away in a child's coin jar for safekeeping. And when one of those coins turns out to be rare, pristine, or error-filled, its story becomes even more exciting. Imagine stumbling across one of these coins in an old drawer, or receiving one back in change without even realizing what you're holding. That's the magic of coin collecting. You never know when a simple penny could reveal itself to be a rare and valuable piece of history. Collectors are always on the hunt for these gems, and that demand is what drives the market to incredible highs. Today, we're shining the spotlight on the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny with mint marks, a coin that millions of Americans once passed from hand to hand without a second thought, but that collectors today view as a symbol of hidden treasure. This is no ordinary penny, it's a part of American history, and for the right example, it could be worth far more than you would ever expect. The Lincoln Wheat Penny itself has an incredible backstory. Introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first coin in United States history to feature a real person rather than a symbolic figure like Liberty. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it carried not only Lincoln's portrait but also those iconic wheat ears on the reverse, symbolizing prosperity and strength. For half a century, these wheat pennies filled coin purses, piggy banks, and cash registers, becoming an everyday companion for Americans. By the time 1951 came around, the wheat cent was already a familiar face in circulation, and yet, within those familiar coins, extraordinary rarities were being struck. The year 1951 saw pennies produced at 3 different U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint left its mark, or lack of one, on the coins. If you find a 1951 penny without a mint mark, it came from Philadelphia. A small D below the date marks it as a Denver issue, while an S identifies it as a San Francisco strike. Though tens of millions were minted across these locations, not every coin is the same. Some survived in pristine, untouched condition. Others carry minting errors or unusual characteristics that make them stand out. And those are the coins that can command values beyond belief. Collectors prize these pennies for many reasons. First, condition matters more than anything. Most 1951 wheat pennies that stayed in circulation show signs of wear, smooth details, darker tones, or scratches from decades of use. But if a coin somehow avoided circulation and remained in mint state condition, with sharp features and original red luster, its value skyrockets. Even more valuable are examples certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC, where the higher the grade, the more intense the competition among collectors. A bright, brilliant red penny from 1951 can capture the attention of bidders instantly. Errors also play a huge role in making these coins rare. During the minting process, a number of mistakes could occur: double die strikes that create doubling in the letters and numbers, repunched mint marks where the D or S looks like it has been stamped twice, or off-center strikes that shift the design away from the center of the coin. Each of these minting quirks is like a fingerprint of history, a small accident that today transforms an ordinary penny into a collector's prize. But beyond errors and condition, there's the story. Every 1951 penny carries with it the memory of post-war America. This was a time when the nation was experiencing growth, innovation, and change. These pennies might have been in the pocket of a factory worker, spent at a soda fountain, or saved in a child's collection. To hold one today is to hold a piece of that era, a tangible connection to mid-20th century America. That's part of the reason why collectors are drawn to them, because they aren't just pieces of metal, they're pieces of history. The magic of coin collecting is that treasures like this can be found in the most unexpected places. Maybe hidden in an old coffee can of change that's been sitting in someone's attic, or tucked away in a forgotten jar passed down through generations. Some of the rarest coins in history have been rediscovered by accident, when someone finally took the time to look more closely at what they had. That's why it's always worth checking your coins carefully, because the next rare find could be in your hands right now. So how much can a 1951 Lincoln Wheat penny with a mint mark be worth today? While most examples are worth only a few cents or a few dollars, the rarest, most pristine, and most error-filled coins have commanded staggering prices at auction. Imagine holding a coin that looks just like any other penny, but that collectors are willing to fight for because of its rarity and condition. Believe it or not, one remarkable 1951 Lincoln Wheat penny has reached an unbelievable value in the collector's market, with a price of $712,000. Would you like me to also create a shorter, punchy version of this script tailored for YouTube Shorts so it hooks viewers quickly?